They believed they had won. The alien invaders, sleek and technologically superior, hovered over the smoking ruins of the human outpost. Their ships gleamed under the distant star, casting shadows over the broken landscape. A handful of survivors, faceless, ran through the rubble, evading capture. Alien soldiers, towering and adorned in metallic armor, marched across the battlefield, scanning for any sign of resistance. To them, this was not war. It was a statement. A lesson in power. Humanity had been quiet for too long, too reserved, too passive in the face of their provocations. The aliens assumed this meant weakness. Arrogance seeped into their every move, from their invasion to their dismissive sneers at humanity's lackluster defenses. They believed humans were nothing more than a footnote in the grand history of their galactic conquests. Inside their command center, alien generals watched with satisfaction as the final pockets of resistance crumbled. The images of burning human structures flickered on their screens, alien voices exchanged over intercoms, filled with smugness. A victory, they told themselves. A perfect, precise strike. But something was off. Reports started trickling in, strange movements from human territories, whispers of an incoming retaliation. Their analysts dismissed it. Humans? Retaliating? Ridiculous. They had nothing left, no strength to mount a meaningful counterattack. They'd thrown their best at the invaders, and it had been laughably insufficient. This was not a war, they had come to teach a lesson, and it had been taught. Yet, deep in the silence of space, human fleets were assembling. Far from the alien eyes, preparations were already underway. Plasma-powered ships hummed as they came to life, engines igniting with a slow, deliberate roar. Quantum ships phased into existence from their hidden docks. Every ship was a precision instrument, designed for one purpose: swift and absolute destruction. There was no bluster, no dramatic speeches or declarations of war. Humanity wasn't interested in rhetoric. They had only one message to deliver. Above the outposts, the alien fleet continued to hover, unaware that they were being watched. Hidden human satellites monitored every movement. Data streamed into human command centers across various points in the galaxy. Calm, emotionless voices relayed information, issuing orders without so much as a breath of hesitation. "We're ready," one voice said over the intercom. No faces, just the sound of control. No one hesitated. There was no fear, only precision. The signal was sent. In an instant, the human fleet surged forward. Dozens of ships emerged from hyperspace, ripping into view with terrifying speed. There was no warning. No opportunity for the alien fleet to regroup. The first plasma bolt hit before their sensors even registered the human presence. It tore through the flagship like a spear, splitting it clean in half. The explosion lit up the darkness of space, but it was only the beginning. The human ships moved with unmatched coordination. They danced through the void, firing with pinpoint accuracy. Alien ships, slow to react, tried to mount a defense, but it was futile. Human firepower was relentless, tearing through shields, hulls, and engines with the cold efficiency of a machine. Each shot was calculated, each strike designed to cripple, to dismantle. On the alien command bridge, panic set in. The once smug generals were now barking orders, their calm demeanor shattered. They had no idea how the humans had managed to mobilize such a force so quickly, how they had countered their supposedly superior technology. Fear crept into their voices as they demanded reinforcements, but none would come. Every ship within range was already under attack, overwhelmed by the sheer ferocity of the human onslaught. Humanity was not fighting to win a war, they were delivering a message. Across the battlefield, the silence of human communication remained unbroken. Orders were transmitted through encrypted channels, faceless commanders directing their fleets with the calm precision of seasoned tacticians. There was no need for bravado, no need for grand displays. The humans spoke with their actions, and the message was crystal clear. They had been underestimated. The alien fleet was now in disarray. Ships were being obliterated one by one, each explosion a testament to humanity's unrelenting might. Desperation spread like wildfire among the alien ranks. Their arrogance had blinded them to the truth: humans had never been weak. They had simply been patient, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. And now, that moment had come. In the midst of the chaos, an alien cruiser attempted to flee, engines roaring to life in a desperate bid for escape. A single human ship locked onto it, plasma cannons charging. In a flash, the cruiser disintegrated into a cloud of molten debris. There would be no escape, no mercy. The alien generals, once confident of their superiority, now faced the undeniable reality: they had provoked the wrong species. The human response was not just a retaliation, it was an extermination of their arrogance. As the last of the alien fleet crumbled under the relentless assault, a signal was broadcast from the human ships. A simple message, devoid of emotion, echoed across the stars. War was your wish. No faces. No names. Just a cold, ruthless statement. The alien empire had made a grave mistake. And humans had delivered their answer. The battle unfolded in silence, except for the constant hum of energy and the distant explosions rocking the void. Alien vessels that once dominated this sector were now little more than burning wreckage, floating aimlessly in the blackness of space. Humanity's response had been nothing short of a calculated assault, each step measured, each strike deliberate. There was no waste. One alien commander watched the destruction from their command post, unable to comprehend how quickly the tide had turned. Reports flooded in, ships decimated, communications jammed, escape routes blocked. It was as if the humans had planned this all along, waiting for the right moment to unleash a fury no one had expected. And now, the once proud alien fleet, the pride of their empire, was little more than fodder for human precision. On the battlefield, human ships moved like phantoms, silent, deadly, and unrelenting. Plasma-powered beams cut through alien hulls, leaving no time for counterattacks. Fleets that had taken centuries to assemble were torn apart in mere minutes, their defenses overwhelmed by a force they had so arrogantly dismissed. The alien officers' voices grew frantic, scrambling for any way to turn the tide. But humanity did not allow for second chances. The alien hierarchy had underestimated humanity, convinced that their superior technology and sheer numbers would bring humanity to its knees. But they had missed the most important factor: human adaptability. In the face of insurmountable odds, humans had always found a way to turn disadvantage into strength. This was no different. Their ships were faster, their strikes more precise, their tactics executed with the kind of cold, detached focus that could only come from minds that understood the true cost of war. There were no emotional outbursts, no cries for vengeance. The humans fought with a kind of ruthless efficiency that bordered on mechanical, as if every move had been calculated long before the first shot was ever fired. The alien ships, by contrast, were now little more than moving targets, scrambling for survival. Panic had spread like wildfire, weakening their defenses even further. In the midst of the destruction, alien leaders were frantically trying to coordinate a defense. Orders were issued, counter-strikes attempted, but nothing worked. Every strategy they attempted was met with an even more devastating response. The human fleet anticipated their every move, striking before the aliens could even react. It was as if the humans knew exactly where they would be, how they would respond. And perhaps, in their arrogance, the aliens had made it all too easy to predict. The human ships, undeterred by the chaos around them, pressed forward. Their firepower was relentless, each strike designed not just to disable but to completely annihilate. Alien shields, once thought to be impenetrable, crumbled under the weight of human precision. The alien fleet was being systematically dismantled, one ship after another. And still, the humans pressed on, their objective clear: total domination. No communications came from the human ships. There were no negotiations, no attempts at diplomacy. They had been attacked, and now they were responding. The message was simple: there would be no mercy. The aliens had started this war, and now humanity would finish it. One alien ship, larger and more heavily armed than the others, attempted to break through the human line. It charged forward, weapons firing in all directions, desperate to create an opening for retreat. But before it could even breach the line, a human dreadnought emerged from hyperspace, blocking its path. The alien crew barely had time to register the threat before the dreadnought unleashed a barrage of plasma fire, tearing through the alien vessel with terrifying precision. In moments, the ship was reduced to little more than debris, scattering across the battlefield. The aliens had always believed themselves superior, destined to rule over the weaker species of the galaxy. But now, as they watched their fleet burn, they realized the truth. Humanity was not a race to be conquered. They were a force to be reckoned with, a species that had risen from adversity time and again. And now, they were the ones delivering the final blow. As the battle raged on, it became clear that the alien forces were collapsing. Ships that had once held formation were now fleeing in every direction, their commanders desperate to save what little remained of their forces. But the humans allowed no escape. Every attempt at retreat was met with swift retribution. Human ships hunted down the fleeing vessels, cutting them off from any hope of survival. There was no chaos in their actions, only a cold, calculated efficiency. Alien command centers were left in disarray, the once confident generals reduced to shouting at broken communication lines, unable to comprehend the magnitude of their defeat. What had begun as a simple invasion had turned into a massacre, one from which there would be no recovery. The alien empire, once the dominant force in the galaxy, was crumbling before their eyes. And humanity, the species they had once considered inferior, was the cause. As the last of the alien ships fell, the battlefield grew eerily quiet. The human fleet remained in formation, hovering over the remains of the alien armada. They had won, not with brute force, but with intelligence, adaptability, and the kind of ruthless precision that had left no room for error. Victory had never been in question. For the alien commanders who remained, the truth was inescapable. They had provoked humanity, and in doing so, they had sealed their own fate. The galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had risen, not as conquerors, but as the deliverers of a harsh, unforgiving lesson. And as the human ships began to pull back, leaving behind only wreckage and silence, one thing was certain: no one would ever underestimate humanity again. The aftermath of the battle left more than just wreckage in space. The psychological scars had begun to sink deep into the minds of the alien leaders. Their once unshakable confidence had shattered, replaced by a gnawing sense of dread. They had witnessed their proud fleets torn apart, their advanced technology rendered obsolete by human ingenuity and ruthlessness. Now, the silence that followed was more terrifying than the explosions that had rocked their ships. Reports of the defeat had spread across the galaxy, reaching every corner of their empire. It was not just a military loss, they had been humiliated on a scale they had never imagined possible. The pride that had driven them to provoke humanity was now their undoing. They had believed themselves untouchable, and that arrogance had blinded them to the true nature of their opponent. As the human fleets consolidated their victory, a new form of warfare began, one fought not with weapons, but with fear. Humanity, in its cold and calculating manner, had begun broadcasting the results of the battle across alien channels. Every surviving alien world received the same message, a replay of the destruction their fleets had suffered, their proud ships reduced to burning debris, their soldiers helpless against the relentless assault. The broadcasts were simple, devoid of theatrics or bravado. Faceless voices delivered the message, calm and devoid of emotion. They didn't need to shout or threaten. The footage itself was enough. Entire alien cities stopped to watch, citizens and soldiers alike, their eyes fixed on the screens as they saw the annihilation of what was supposed to be their invincible fleet. There was no escape from the truth. The humans had not just won the battle, they had shattered the myth of alien superiority. In the command centers of the alien empire, panic set in. Leaders who had once spoken confidently of humanity's inferiority were now scrambling for answers. They argued amongst themselves, trying to figure out how they could have been so wrong, how they had underestimated a species they had considered beneath them. Their voices, once full of authority, were now tinged with fear. Some demanded retaliation, believing that the humans couldn't possibly sustain such a victory. Others, however, recognized the futility of such thoughts. The humans had struck without warning, without hesitation, and with a precision that suggested this was only the beginning. There was no way to know what else humanity had in reserve. Any attempt to retaliate would only lead to further losses. But even those who understood this were reluctant to admit the truth. They were now at the mercy of a species they had once dismissed as weak. The cracks in the alien empire's facade were growing wider by the hour. Alien soldiers, once steadfast in their loyalty, began questioning their leaders. Civilians, who had once celebrated the invasion of human territories, now watched in silence as their leaders scrambled for answers. The sense of invincibility that had permeated their society was gone, replaced by a quiet, simmering fear. For the humans, it was all part of the plan. This psychological assault was as precise as the military strikes that had decimated the alien fleets. Humanity had known that fear would be their greatest weapon in the aftermath of the battle. They didn't need to continue fighting, not yet. The alien leaders were already doing the work for them, unraveling their own society with every desperate order, every argument that broke out among their ranks. In the days following the defeat, the alien empire grew increasingly fragmented. Some factions called for immediate surrender, knowing that to resist would only lead to their destruction. Others, still clinging to their pride, demanded that they regroup and fight back. But even as they made these calls, they knew it was futile. The humans had proven that they were not to be underestimated. Every attempt to rebuild their forces would be met with the same ruthless precision that had dismantled them in the first place. Humanity's strategy was clear: they would let the alien empire destroy itself. The broadcasts continued, reminding the aliens of their defeat, replaying the images of burning ships and shattered defenses. Every time the message went out, the cracks widened. It was a slow, deliberate breakdown of their once mighty civilization. On the alien homeworlds, whispers of surrender spread. Leaders who had once stood proudly in opposition to humanity now found themselves facing unrest from their own people. Protests broke out in cities that had once celebrated war. The alien citizens had seen what the humans were capable of, and they wanted no part in further conflict. They demanded that their leaders find a way to end the war before it led to the total annihilation of their species. As the pressure mounted, the alien leadership found themselves cornered. They had no choice but to consider the one option they had sworn never to take: surrender. But even this was a complex, humiliating decision. To surrender would mean acknowledging that they had been wrong all along, that they had misjudged humanity on every level. It would mean admitting to their own people that they had led them into a war they could not win. Still, the alternative was unthinkable. The human fleets remained in position, silently watching, waiting. There were no more strikes, no further attacks, but the threat loomed large over the alien worlds. Humanity had no need to rush. They had already won. Now they would let the alien empire crumble from within, its leaders paralyzed by fear, its people on the verge of revolt. The alien high command gathered for what would be their final meeting before the inevitable decision. Tensions were high, every word spoken with caution. Some still held out hope for a miracle, but the majority knew the truth. There would be no last-minute rescue, no sudden reversal of fortune. The humans had crushed their military, broken their will, and now they were breaking their spirit. In the end, the decision was made with a heavy, collective sigh. The message would be sent to the human command. They were prepared to negotiate. But even as they prepared the message, they knew it was not a negotiation. It was a surrender, plain and simple. And as the faceless human voice came over the channel, acknowledging their message, they realized just how complete their defeat had been. The humans had never needed to fire another shot. Their victory had been sealed the moment they had broken the aliens' pride. The rest was just a matter of time. The message had been sent, and the reality of their surrender began to sink into the alien leaders. It wasn't just the military defeat that weighed on them. It was the utter destruction of everything they had built. For generations, their empire had expanded, consumed, and conquered. They had believed they were destined to rule the stars, unchallenged, unthreatened by any species, least of all humanity. Now, they stood on the edge of an abyss, watching as the foundation of their power crumbled beneath them. Their worlds were quiet, filled with a tension that had never existed before. Cities that had once thrived under the banner of conquest were now filled with whispers of fear. Alien civilians, whose lives had been untouched by the distant wars, were now living in the shadow of defeat. They had watched the broadcasts, seen their proud fleets burn, and now they waited for the inevitable, human occupation. The silence from the humans was deafening. Since their victory, they had made no further moves. Their fleets hovered in the distance, just outside the alien homeworlds, a constant reminder of their presence. They didn't need to advance. The psychological impact had already taken hold. The alien leadership knew that humanity could strike at any moment, but they didn't. The humans were patient, allowing the weight of impending defeat to do the work for them. Alien leaders, once filled with pride and confidence, now met in dark rooms, their discussions muted by the fear of what was to come. They debated the terms of surrender, knowing full well that they had no leverage. Humanity had shown no interest in negotiation, no sign that they would allow anything other than complete submission. The aliens were left to contemplate their downfall, each leader silently acknowledging their role in bringing about the destruction of their empire. As the days passed, the first human ships finally began to descend onto alien worlds. They didn't come in force, they didn't need to. A small, controlled presence was all it took to establish order. Alien populations watched from a distance as human soldiers, faceless and silent, moved through their cities. There were no grand speeches, no shows of dominance. The humans were simply there, cold, efficient, and in control. Their presence alone was enough to quell any thoughts of rebellion. The alien military, once the pride of their empire, had been reduced to a mere shadow of its former self. The soldiers who remained had been ordered to stand down, their weapons useless in the face of the overwhelming human presence. What had once been an unstoppable force was now little more than a footnote in the history of their people. The humans had not needed to destroy them entirely. They had simply shown them the futility of resistance. The alien civilians, now under human oversight, quickly realized that there was no brutality in the occupation. The humans had no interest in subjugation or cruelty. They were methodical, their presence felt in every corner of alien society, but they did not oppress. Instead, they allowed the alien worlds to continue functioning, but under strict control. Alien leaders were removed from power, their influence stripped away, while new human administrators quietly took their place. There was no chaos, no outcry from the population. The transition was smooth, as if the aliens had already resigned themselves to their fate. Across the galaxy, other alien species watched in silence. The message from humanity had been clear: they would not tolerate any further challenges to their strength. The fall of the once great empire served as a stark reminder of what could happen to those who dared to provoke them. One by one, alien governments sent their own messages to humanity, pledging their allegiance, offering their cooperation. They had seen the fate of those who had resisted, and none of them were willing to suffer the same. In the alien capital, where once grand parades celebrated their conquests, there was now only the quiet, uneasy calm of a people under occupation. The alien leaders who had once stood at the pinnacle of their society were gone, replaced by human overseers who maintained control with the same precision that had won them the war. There were no riots, no attempts at rebellion. The alien population knew better. They had seen what humanity was capable of, and they would not dare provoke them again. Even in defeat, the alien leadership struggled to comprehend the full extent of what had happened. They had assumed, in their arrogance, that humanity would crumble under the weight of their attack. They had believed that their superior numbers, their advanced technology, would be enough to crush any resistance. But they had been wrong. They had underestimated not just humanity's strength, but their resolve, their ability to turn the tide of any conflict with cold, calculated precision. As the days turned into weeks, the alien empire ceased to exist. What had once been the dominant force in the galaxy was now just another subject under human control. Alien historians would write about the rise and fall of their people, but the truth would remain: they had brought about their own destruction through arrogance and hubris. They had believed themselves invincible, and that belief had led them to provoke the one species that would not back down. Humanity, now the undisputed power in the galaxy, made no grand claims to their victory. They did not boast or celebrate. There was no need. Their dominance was felt in every corner of the galaxy, from the alien worlds they had occupied to the distant civilizations that had watched in horror as the Empire fell. Everyone knew who held the power now, and no one dared to challenge it. In the end, the alien leaders could only reflect on their own failure. They had wished for war, believing that it would bring them glory, that it would solidify their place at the top of the galactic hierarchy. But they had been wrong. War had brought them nothing but ruin, and humanity had delivered that ruin with ruthless efficiency. The galaxy would never be the same again. The alien empire had fallen, and in its place, humanity had risen. They had not sought out this war, but they had won it. And now, as the dust settled, it was clear that the future belonged to them. The aliens had wished for war. And humanity had delivered it, ruthlessly.